Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a Cinema Effect special presentation, is what we can call it. Today, we have a great conversation for you as myself and the boys got the chance to sit down with American filmmaker Daniel V. Masciari, who is the director of the new film Stationed at Home, which has been premiering and getting attention at a variety of film festivals this year around the world. The film definitely has a few different layers to it, but I would pitch it to you as following a lonely taxi driver on a night shift on Christmas Eve of 1998 in the small town of Binghamton, New York, during which he encounters some eccentric characters and goes on a mini odyssey, I guess, of sorts, as he drives them around town. This really was a labour of love from Daniel and his entire crew, which you'll hear him talk about. The film took around 7 years to make, and I think it's a great story of independent filmmaking triumphing when you have someone like Daniel with a vision to make a unique movie and a ton of passionate people who all come together to make it happen on a small budget. So if you're interested in learning about the filmmaking process from that perspective, I think you're going to really enjoy this interview. We do also go pretty deep into the creative choices in this movie, in terms of the script, the visual style, the score, and so on. So there's no major spoilers, but if what you hear towards the start intrigues you, I'd definitely recommend seeing the film and then coming back to get the most out of the rest of this discussion. Stationed at Home is available on demand on November 11th, anywhere you purchase or rent your digital movies, so it should be available as you're hearing this now. But without further ado, here's our conversation with Daniel Masciari about his new movie, Stationed at Home. Okay, awesome. We're joined today by Daniel Masciari, the director of Stationed at Home. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us today. I know it's the evening where you are. We have the power of time travel over here, so we're in the future on Friday morning.
Thanks a lot for having me. It's great to be with you guys.
No problem. We appreciate you accommodating our time zone. I'll kick us off with this. I'm fascinated by the amount of time and dedication it takes to make a project like this come together, because I saw it as far back as 2019. There was a local Binghamton news piece covering you in town, pitching the film. I think you'd already shot some footage before then as well. I just wanted to get a sense of what does your last 6 or 7 years look like making this film, and just how difficult a process has it been, because it's something that a lot of people may not understand, how much is involved in getting a feature film like this made, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we made this film with all unknown actors. I think that's essentially where you can start looking at why it takes a while to make. I mean, I got the idea. I was on a bus from New York City to Ithaca. I was living in New York at the time. And we stopped in Binghamton, New York. And I just fell in love with the city, with the location and this music I was listening to. And then I was just like, I got to make a film about a cab driver waiting to see the first pass of the International Space Station. There was just like something about that mood of Binghamton, and this actor I had in mind, a really good friend of mine, Eric Bjarnar, who plays Ralph in the film. I just imagined him alone as this like lone taxi driver in the distance. And then I just started getting more ideas about the world of this film, the cold of the film. And it was just one step after the other. It was like, what's the next step? Well, write the script. And then the next step is, okay, well, my cinematographer, one of my best friends, Jackson, and I, like, let's go scout it. We have no money. Let's take a Greyhound bus to Binghamton and scout in the winter and just get more inspiration from there. And then it was just one step after the other, cut to 7 years, 6, 7 years later. It's like, we're here talking because, our film's going to be in the world. So it wasn't by design that, it took that long. It's just how hard it is to make a feature film. So, I had a really good team around me, both the cast. I wrote the film for 75% of the actors in the film, people I actually studied Meisner technique acting with. Yeah, so I don't know, am I answering your question? It's basically,
no, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Basically, yeah, it was just one step after the other. And it's such a big, heavy weight to make a film, especially if you want to do it without compromising what the vision is, because you're up against a lot, especially making a film all at night in the cold. And with like actually a fairly extensive number of locations, with a very limited budget. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a journey for sure.
That's amazing, because I guess I asked because it sounds like a Herculean effort, but when you're talking about the one step after another, like, it really was just like your passion and just keeping you going. You didn't really, when you're in it, it's just in the moment, you're just enjoying the process.
It was always exactly right. Yeah, there was never a moment where I doubted it getting made. There was always just, okay, what's the next hurdle that has to be accomplished? And obviously, yeah, making a film, there's tons of hurdles, but we, again, I just had people around me that were just as passionate as I was, because, we, I don't know, I just feel like we're in a time now where people yearn to make films that are actually like visions and not just, remakes, I guess, or, films that actually can actually be aligned with poetry or with other art forms, rather than, just, the same formulas of, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like ever since I was little, I remember seeing the film Snakes on a Plane or something.
Yeah.
I remember, and I was in the theater, I was like, I don't know how old I was, maybe like 13, 14 or something like that. And I was like, I knew everything that was going to happen in that film. And I just was like, but then I had seen like a film that like my dad showed me called The Italian. Honestly, like a lot of the details are escaping me of that film, but I remember being so moved by that film. And it was this, not because I'm Italian, but, just because of the nature of what kind of a film it was. And it really dawned on me that you can make a film one way, you can also make it another way. And I just feel like the, films from like the 70s and the 80s are films that I love. I just wanted to make a film that was in the tradition of, entertainment, but at the same time, like, a vision of something that you want to communicate. So
absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
You have to stop me from rambling.
No, you're good. This is great.
Yeah.
So,
you already touched on it a little bit, just with kind of falling in love with the city of Binghamton. But I was going to ask, there is this inherent charm in a lot of small cities that it's often hard to see as like a local. But you've really managed to capture it here in the film. I was just wondering, like what exactly was it about that city specifically? Like, did it have to be Binghamton? Could it have been another place?
Yeah, again, it was going back to the inspiration of it. The city, it was just a character to me. The city of Binghamton was a character. I guess like maybe there's another city that could have been, but to me, it was like, there was just something about the buildings, the architecture, and also how desolate it is.
Yeah.
It's like that combination. It always felt to me like it was a city that wasn't quite abandoned. It was just forgotten. And so, I wanted to play on that feeling of yearning. There's still hope here. There's still, a magic that people can, acquire if they look in the right places or listen to the right sounds. So for me, the city of Binghamton was always the place to be for the film. And we actually helped establish through our film the Binghamton Film Office. And so that became like a great collaboration with us, where they would help us find locations, different alleyways, various places, so that we could get it all in the can the way we wanted in the time we had to shoot. So yeah, it was both aesthetic reasons and practical reasons to shoot there. So yeah.
You mentioned in the can, just quickly, did you shoot on film, or was that just kind of...
No, just a phrase. We shot on a Vericam LT, so digitally. Yeah. I mean, some people have thought we shot on film because we did a lot of playing with like halation and glow and softening of the image in post. But that was by design. We wanted to really make the film have a very soft, kind of nostalgic look. So, and Jackson, who I mentioned earlier, was just a huge proponent of making it have that sort of noir kind of look, but also, shoot digitally because, one, I think why limit ourselves to fewer takes? And also, I just think you have more control to do it digitally, especially black and white. I find black and white to be quite beautiful digitally. Color can be a little more challenging to make it not look so sharp and that sort of thing. So,
just another kind of pre-production question for you. Given the minimal dialogue in the film, how difficult was the writing process? Was it shorter, or did having less dialogue kind of make you consider each word more carefully and extend it?
Yeah, it's a great question. The writing process for me was not, I don't think it was changed at all because there was less dialogue. I think I was always just curious about what's happening and the subtle looks between characters and the relationships and the flow of the film. But the dialogue was minimal. I think that's just maybe my style or my sensibilities. I think it was maybe Hitchcock that said that dialogue is just another sound. And so actually this interesting thing to talk about, I wrote a lot of sounds into the script. So even like a distant dog or something, I was always thinking about the sound design while I was writing it. So that might actually explain why, maybe not necessarily why there's not that much dialogue, but it's a quiet film. And I wanted the sort of ambience of the city and the sort of mood of the city to come about. So when characters are talking, I wanted it to feel, motivated rather than, them yapping all the time.
Was writing done all at once, or was it kind of the thing that happened as production went on as well a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but I really believe the writing ends when the final cut is done in the edit room. I'm actually come from an editing background. I've made my living editing for a decade. And so for me, the script kept evolving, but I'd say the first draft took a few months maybe. And then after that, it was just, I would be inspired by, talking with actors, talking with cinematographer Jackson, and basically letting it translate. Even as we were shot listing, we were updating the script because we knew a certain shot or a certain reaction from a character might say more than a piece of dialogue. So it was just a constant organic process, but the overall trajectory of what was happening in the film stayed basically the same, with some nuances of, moments. You want to be open to that for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And just on the like script being more based on expressions and sounds and that kind of thing. You mentioned in another interview that Eric Biana, he remembered a lot of expressions that he had to, in specific moments for the film. Did that make the filmmaking process more collaborative? Did that happen with other actors as well?
I love that you bring that up. Eric Bjarnar is, as I say, the master of gestures. Although that might be the first time I've said that exact phrase, but I've thought it. He's got such an ability to memorize gestures and looks and moments in such a quick fashion. He's a very quick read. And it was a lot of fun just saying to him, look to your right here, look to your left there, do this. And he's just able to be in the moment in such a specific way. And I think it goes back also to the Meisner technique. So these actors in the film who I just loved working with, they love the detail. They love the little minutia moments that a film can do. And I think it helped that we knew each other because we could get on the same wavelength about what the film is, the tone we wanted to strike. And so sorry, can you repeat part of your question? I'm missing something there.
Sure. Oh, just like, did that make the filmmaking process more collaborative? Just with like Eric remembering the expressions, it being more expression based, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
for sure. Yeah, it was. I think we had everything prepared to a T when it came to the shot list and
Mm.
to the camera setups we wanted to have, etc. So the actors felt like they knew they had a strong base, so that if we were to play around, it wasn't for any reason other than to enhance things or to find a new moment. There was never a moment where they thought we were just shooting random shots. So I think the fact that we were so prepared made it more collaborative because they knew that there was a base that was going to be solid for them. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. I wanted to ask about your actors, your crew, and your department heads. How did you pull everyone together? Did you know? I know you mentioned your best friend is the cinematographer on the film. Were there other people you'd collaborated with previously? I'm curious about assembling the whole team here.
Yeah. So the actors, as I mentioned, Actors Workshop of Ithaca, Meisner Studio, run by actually Eliza Van Court, who is one of my producers, incredible collaborator of mine. She plays Elaine, the woman in the hotel. And so it was basically her and Jackson were the first two folks that I was talking about in strong detail. And then essentially Jackson had connected me with one of our other awesome producers, Bethany Hedges out of Buffalo. She was in from the beginning as well after I met with her. And then, and then Molly Longwell, our production designer. She's someone I'd worked with a few times in New York. And we've all worked together in various capacities. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like an organic kind of process. But yeah, I'd say, most of the department heads are people that I've worked with in some capacity or knew from New York. And then there's some roles that I just delegated to Bethany because of some crew members that she's worked with in the past. And then post-production are people that I've worked with extensively. So
Yeah.
it's like the sound designer, Jack Lydon, is a good friend of mine. He's done another film that I did in the past. And he was just an absolute joy to work with. We spent months at Postworks in New York, just designing the sound and foleying and all that. So
That sounds like a lot of fun.
yeah, it was a blast. It's one of my favorite parts of the process because you really start to feel the film like come, the spaces where you want to hear, like a footstep or something like that. I mean, we didn't do the footsteps, but many other aspects of the sounds just come alive, of the film come alive when you can feel it with a textured sound or something like that. So
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Is that where you thrive? That you mentioned you're an editor by trade as well. Is that where you really find that the post-production, the editing, and getting to sit with everything you've shot, is that where you really find that that you thrive creatively?
yeah, I think it's sort of like, I always think of it like cooking in a way. You want to get the ingredients so that you can cook it. And so for me, even as I was writing the film, I was thinking about, how I'm going to edit it, at least to a certain degree. Because it's particularly this film is so like specific in terms of how it's assembled. I think that's just how I work, but it's not the kind of film that relies just on events. It's more on like very specific moments that I think might not be understood immediately, like on the page. But when you see it, you get the it's written, like, for example, like a moment between Harry and Ralph when they're having steaks at the diner. Those looks were mostly written, like when they're looking at when he's like looking at him and then he looks away, like, and then he looks out the window. Those were written, and so it wasn't like I mean, you find a lot in the edit, of course, but this film really relied on those subtle details being planned, essentially. So,
yeah, cool. In terms of some of the choices you made with the visual language of the film, obviously black and white, and the aspect ratio as well. I thought correct me if I'm wrong. I want to test myself. I thought the aspect ratio is it 1:6:6?
yeah.
Oh
Yep.
yes, awesome. To me, that contributed in giving the film this cozy feeling, this almost sort of, I don't know, like nostalgic feeling for a time I definitely wasn't alive for.
Yeah.
Why did those aspects feel right to you, and how do they sort of serve the vibe that you're trying to create with the film?
Well, Jackson, our cinematographer, when he hears that, is just going to love it because he actually pushed the 1:6:6 on me.
Okay.
He won that, and he was so right because he literally said it's going to make it feel cozier, and he was he was completely right. At first, I was like, oh, let's just go full 16:9, but he was spot on. It made even the close-ups feel cozier, not just the wide shots and the sort of establishing shots of the city. The 1:6:6 definitely gave it just that little cozy, and it even kind of worked with the sound too. It's kind of wild how those are synesthetically like so connected. How the size of the frame, and then also how the sound is working with that too. So yeah, that's all Jackson. I don't take credit for that choice at all. That was a really wise decision from his end.
Yeah, and paired with the black and white, I don't know, just those two together really, really do something.
Yeah, totally.
And the kind of like simulated film kind of look that ended up being there as well.
For sure. Yeah, it gave it definitely a cozy vibe with the black and white, the 1:6:6, and the overall softness of it, a kind of unassuming feeling as well. And that was a word that I wanted to have just maintain as we were shooting the film. I kept reminding myself and others, I want the film to feel kind of unassuming, because I want Ralph to be unassuming. I want his cab to be this Chevy Astro, this just like box, just things that are, I didn't want it to feel like it was trying to be slick or something like that. I wanted it to be unassuming, and in a very authentic way to the area of Binghamton.
And just on visual choices, like I just want to add, the film like is truly beautiful. Like every shot, I loved so many, especially the establishing stuff. Just I want to kind of ask about image inspiration, and kind of vibe based ones. I felt like there was a bit of Wes Anderson's short films, maybe some Jim Jarmusch, Night on Earth, maybe a bit of like Jane Pollard in Forsyth, even like in some of the quirkiness, maybe. And then I think you mentioned as well, just with some of the older films you liked, I think, and having like the poeticness of it, I think maybe even a bit of 8.5 and like the kind of surreal aspects.
I definitely, I always get, it's almost like too flattering when people do, because I have such admiration for, Jim Jarmusch. Some reviewer compared it to Taste of Cherry by Kiarostami. I'm like, whoa, like I don't like, I'm way too humble to like accept these, but it's, no, I mean, definitely on some level, the cinematography is working with a lot of like two shots, right? And I know Night on Earth did that a lot, and yeah, I think too. I mean, I will say, like, I watched a lot of Antonioni growing up, so like Red Desert, The Passenger. Obviously, it's nothing like The Passenger or Red Desert from a story standpoint, or like L'Avventura, these sort of Italian films, which were very, very much about, just allowing the audience to just sit and just sort of absorb sound and like be still in a lot of ways. So I definitely was affected by these sorts of films, along with Night on Earth and the films from the 70s and the 80s. Who were you mentioning at the end there? I don't think
Jane Pollard and Ian Forsyth. They had like 20,000 Days on Earth with Nick Cave and They had a
I
film this year.
haven't seen that. I would check that.
But they kind of had this like surrealistic element to like the kind of real world stuff that was kind of leaning into. I felt like your film was leaning into. But did you kind of have like a kind of extensive list of films that sometimes you hear about directors having watched hundreds of films in preparation to like get a visual style or a certain vibe? Did you have an extensive list of references or anything, or was it just kind of I know what I want and we can pull from some places in that?
It was more when we got to shot listing that we would look at references just to know it's specifically like what lenses to use and just get clarity on like what the frames look like, because that can be really helpful, at least for me. But from the writing standpoint, no, that it was an odd sort of just myopia, I'd say, of writing this. I wish maybe I should have more of an analytical mind there, but it was very much just I always thought about these actors that I was writing for, like, what if they took a left turn in life rather than a right turn and became actors? They just sort of went down a different path, and I was sort of playing with that. And so I was just following what they would do. And so, so I'm not saying Pete, who played George, would deny the moon landing, but it's possible. He's definitely argued to me that it's possible. Not that he believes it, but I could. So it was definitely in writing this, I was really thinking about the idiosyncrasies that these people might have in a different sort of context. So.
Okay. Just on Elaine. Elaine's story kind of added a lot of eeriness and mystery to the film. Just what was your inspiration or desired effect for including Elaine's story in the film? Did you have that kind of mystery or eeriness in mind, or was there another purpose?
There was it's funny because when we're talking about inspirations, my mind, like as you were asking that, the film Un Chien Andalou, the Buñuel film, just sort of pops in my head. I'm like, that must have had some kind of an effect visually on that. But I'd say that part, I always associated Elaine's character with, I don't know if, and again, like, I don't want to imprint this so other people, I don't want to like tell people what to think, but like I always thought about her character as like associated with the city itself, sort of like the spirit of the city.
Sure.
And so to me, there was kind of this other dimension of the city that I was always curious about. And the Twilight Zone actually was born out of Binghamton.
Oh, really?
There's actually a high school there that's named after Rod Serling. Yes. So, and I think even what's strange is at the time when I got the idea for the film, I don't think I even knew that. I think I think I may have heard it, but I didn't know it. So there's just something about the city itself that has that sort of hidden vibe. But yeah, I always saw Elaine, going back to Elaine, I saw her storyline as kind of this other dimension of the city that's happening while the sort of like reality, quote unquote, is happening out with the guys. And so, to me, she's sort of like the kind of maternal spirit of the film, and it's sort of the magic in my mind.
Okay. And was that basement scene, was that kind of like Twilight Zone inspired? Like where did that idea kind of...
It seems like it was. I think honestly that basement stuff came to my mind when I was listening to the music by Gaucho, who actually, it's their music. So I hadn't met them before, but I was listening to this music by the band Gaucho out in San Francisco. I was listening to Sugarita and the song Gaucho by Gaucho. And I fell in love with this music. And then I started writing to this music. I was like, this is happening down. And then she's, this is like part of like a cop chase. It was all sort of a blur, but then I reached out to them and and they were really cool and wanted to be a part of the film. So
Awesome,
that was music. I mean, I guess like, as I'm talking more and more about this, I think music was a huge inspiration to this film.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
obviously the jazz music, the old timey jazz music, and the the score actually was created after the fact. I didn't even realize I needed a score until I was editing. Everything else was thought of, but not the score. So.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I wanted to ask about the score by Logan Nelson because that's really interesting that you shot the whole film thinking it wasn't going to have a score.
Yeah. I was actually kind of resisting the idea of having a score, and then when I was editing it, I was like, but I want to hear piano here, or I want to hear some cello, and then I had some tangential relationship with Logan. He had done music for Jackson's film, Jackson Jarvis, our cinematographer, his short film that I had edited. And so I connected with him, and he just created some really beautiful music. And he also did the music for Elaine's storyline, that like distant piano and, the through space. He also created the strip club music. He also and some of the a wide range. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was so at first I was like, oh, can you just do the score? And then it became, wait, I need the strip club song. Can you do that? So
that's awesome.
So it worked out nicely. But basically, yeah, the score, I can't believe that I never thought I'd need a score, but I was so tied to this jazz music. I thought it could sustain the entire way, but it needed that sort of connection between Ralph and Elaine. We wanted to have that score be that connection.
Right.
Yeah. With that in mind, like what was your reaction to then hearing that final emotional piece over the ending? Because I got to say, I thought it was perfect. I thought it was awesome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for saying so. We did our Western New York premiere in Buffalo at the Buffalo International Film Festival 2-3 weeks ago. And again, like you probably know this, but like when you work on something for so long, you sort of unless a lot of time has gone past where you haven't seen it, you're sort of just you feel like you're sort of orchestrating it because you made the film. But I was actually able to experience that like in full for the first time there. And at the end, when they're all looking up, and not to give too many spoilers away to your viewers, but there was just something about that music and the audience like being on this like very fine, gentle wavelength together that for me was just like pretty surreal to experience. I actually saw a few people crying, and it's weird because it wasn't like anything like that familiar was happening, but it was just something about that music that Logan created, along with this very simple experience the actors are having, the characters are having, that just made the whole moment feel big.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that was a real rewarding feeling, to go back to your question of that. Yeah.
Your film is kind of full to, like, it seems to me that the film's kind of full to the brim with lonely and alone characters. I think you kind of go about showing that with the use of media to fill silent spaces, particularly with the jazz and the radio, and sometimes the TV clips as well. I was kind of wondering if do you see it that way, or can you speak about kind of, devices that you use to, create these people that feel kind of isolated, but then they come together?
Just, you mean sort of like how I was thinking about how they connected,
in a sense, if that's how you, it's kind of, because I see them as kind of if not necessarily lonely, but alone people.
Yeah.
And just how did you manage to like kind of like bringing them together? Just what kind of device did you use other than story?
Yeah. I think I think it's just it's a really interesting question because I think the characters, they're lonely, but in my mind, hopeful at the same time. But I mean, Ralph, for example, is like obviously he's a hermit, and I found that to be he's sort of like the gravitational force of the film. He's this guy that all of these other characters, take advantage of or sort of derail him. But yeah, they're all kind of lonely in a way, but they don't. I think the key to how I'm thinking about this is that I don't think they see themselves as lonely. So that's maybe the partially answers your question here, because I think what makes them watchable is that we might see them as lonely, but I don't think they necessarily feel too lonely. You know what I mean? They might be lonelier than they let on, and I think that goes back to the like some restraint. I think if the actor played the character as lonely, it might be sort of like, oh wow, you're having a pity party, like, okay, go make some friends or something like that. But I think I think the actors did a really good job of playing characters that are just like they're lone, like for various reasons, but there's like a spirit in there that makes them watchable. So I think that it's an interesting. I'd have to think more about that, but yeah, it's
Well, I also just think back to like Harry's partner when we see her working in the store. She does kind of have this kind of dejected kind of feeling, and like he kind of there is a similar thing with other side characters. So like, that's kind of why I was
okay. Gotcha.
Curious as well.
I think, I mean, I guess I would attribute that to like maybe just the city itself, and sort of the the in the middle of nowhere kind of vibe. I mean, I personally, one of my favorite things is to go to an area I've never been, and say a small town or a small city, and just see how people exist in those places, and how they can kind of tell a story about, where they came from, who they are, and what they sort of think about in terms of the future. And I think, small cities and small towns can, I mean, I come from right outside of Boston, but I lived in New York for a while. And I think it's easy in cities to pretend like we're not lonely, or like we don't have longings for things because everything's here. If you live in New York City, it's like I can go to a store at 2 a.m. and get whatever I need. But there's also something about how that's just like maybe not true, and it's sort of an illusion, whereas I think sometimes in small towns, small cities, you can see how people cope with the fact that they can't distract themselves with having access to everything at once. I'm just spitballing here.
No, that's satisfyingly answered. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh yeah. A bit of an odd question. Feel free to ignore this one, but like the science fiction clips, the quirky kind of ads, the radio DJ, they all provide like a lot of atmosphere, and they're all, there's a lot of kind of analog devices in the film. Was that just speaking to the film's time period, or was there like, did you have more consideration behind these ideas, behind these kind of devices?
Yeah, great question. All of the analog stuff in the film, I think it was really pushing into this nostalgic idea that we wanted to get across and wanted to commit to. And also not just nostalgia, but also timelessness. And I think that's another idea too I wanted to touch on when you're asking me about Elaine, is I wanted there to be this feeling of timelessness going on in this city where, yes, it's kind of a forgotten area to a certain degree, but there's kind of this timeless spirit, this other dimension that just doesn't change. It's sort of like stuck in time. And in fact, and so the analog, the tape recorder, the Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, and
even the typewriter with Elaine is
in the typewriter. Yeah, all of these things to me just made it feel like it was timeless, sort of a vintage vibe. And also it was 1998 in Binghamton, which, I jokingly say with love to everyone in Binghamton is basically like, maybe 1950s in other places or 1960s in other places. It's sort of, and again, that might not be totally true, but in my mind for the film, I wanted it to feel like it could have been 1950 or 1960 or even like, maybe not 1920, but, in terms of the overall flavor of the film and the texture of the film, I wanted it to have a timeless feel.
Kind of goes back to the Twilight Zone as well, just being kind of stuck in one time period. So
totally. Yeah.
That's
100%. Yeah. And I think I actually grew up watching Twilight Zone a lot with my grandfather. So I think that probably had an effect on some things for sure.
That kind of leads into my next question, is that you've kind of spoken about the immigrant story that exists within the film, inspired by your grandfather, whom you ultimately dedicated it to. This is another facet that I really enjoyed, just being the grandson of immigrants as well, and being able to see similarities in their story of immigrating to Australia, and that one to New York, and just the jobs they take on. Just can you talk a bit on that aspect of immigration, and then also your relationship with your grandfather? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I grew up, around a lot of people from a lot of different places. In fact, there was a joke in my high school that there was this one kid that came up to us in the library, friends from Iran, Bosnia, Uganda, and he would come over and say, "Oh, it's the United Nations over here," because I just, I grew up around a lot of people from different places. So I think for me, that sort of sensibility of it was normal to be friends with, oddballs, so to speak, people that have different sensibilities, different quirks. So yeah, I think that definitely affects what I'm interested in. I'm very much interested in people with, quirks or idiosyncrasies that you might not see in a TV show, for example, where, people are just doing the same things or look the same or things like that. My grandfather's name was Ralph. And so I dedicated it to him mainly because I really wanted him to see the film, because I remember, as a little kid watching films with him at his house, and later staying up later than, I normally was allowed to. Yeah. But he wasn't able to see the film. He passed away maybe a year before I was done with it, or 2 years. Man. And so I dedicated it to him because I wanted him to see it. So, and his name was Ralph, not by design. I just felt like Eric, who played Ralph, sort of has a similar sort of innocence, and my grandfather was there was an innocence to him, emotionally, and so I think that sort of gentle spirit was, in my mind, a connection between in the name Ralph, I guess.
Yeah.
So
another kind of philosophical script question. The film has a few moments of like serendipity or randomness, such as like the scratch off win, the International Space Station passing on Christmas, and I guess a minor one is like a serial killer and Jack being from Arizona. Was the kind of idea of serendipity, was that a major part of the film's writing process? And is there like a Fargo influence maybe, just also with the setting of the film, the kind of snowy setting of the film?
Yeah, I mean, as I was writing it, I just kept finding these little moments of things that could repeat. So I remember when I got to the scene where Stanley is he's eating his dumplings and he needs to floss. I'm like, why doesn't he just give him the toothpick that he got at the diner and that he from Harry? I'm like, that just seemed like a nice serendipitous moment. And then the International Space Station to me is essentially, in my mind, the epitome of the most mundane sort of image you can see. It's literally a dot in the sky, yet it has so much meaning. At least to me, it has a lot of meaning, to be able to look up and see this little dot flying around. So, so yes, the film is built on these very mundane, serendipitous moments. And I always thought of the end being the most mundane thing that you can see in the sky, yet it has all this meaning to Ralph, and then sort of by proxy to these other characters. So yeah, I think the plan of serendipity was something, actually, if you're curious, there were times where it almost felt too serendipitous when we were shooting and then also editing. There were some things I cut out because it just felt it felt forced a couple of times. So it was like this fine line of, okay, this is working. That's a little too much. Like, I don't want it. That's too much. So let's take that out. So yeah, I'm trying to think of like a specific example of something that was taken out. But it's hard to remember because, when you cut it out, you forget it.
Was there much that was left on the cutting room floor? It was like
a fair amount. If I had to guess, we probably had a 1:7 shooting ratio. So for listeners, it's in 7 hours of footage, roughly, we used an hour. So we probably shot like 14 hours of stuff.
Wow.
So about that, if I had to just guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, fair amount on the cutting room floor, but we were pretty precise when we were shooting. Not just because we had to be, but we wanted to make sure that we knew what we were shooting. And again, to give flexibility to the actors and also to us, so that we weren't scrambling when we got to set. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there? I guess.
By the way, I feel like I'm in a Zen. I feel like I'm in a Zen monastery here. It's great. It's super chill.
Thank you. That's great. Was there a shot that was particularly hard to pull off when you're? I just picture you guys out there in the middle of the night, shooting in town. That sounds like a whole experience in and of itself. But yeah, was there a shot when you're out there that was particularly challenging?
I think, yeah. Because it was cold, it was very cold. There were many shots that might have been easier had it not been negative 10 degrees.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of like a specific shot that we had difficulty with.
I was curious about that. The aerial, like obviously there's the sequence at the end where there's the chase around the roundabout. And there's an aerial shot in there, directly looking above. Like how did that come together?
A drone. So that was one of those moments that shows how collaborative and how family-like this shoot was. Daria, she was actually doing DIT work on our set, and she just happened to have a drone with her coming up from New York, and she was super cool. She worked during the day. We were working at night, and then she would come pick up the dailies and organize everything, and then she came out that night to do this drone shot, not getting any sleep. So yeah, that's how we did it, was a drone.
I see.
Not a helicopter.
No, that's cool. It stood out in a good way. I thought it was cool. But like obviously there's not many drone shots in the film,
Yeah, no, that was the only one.
It was worth it. It was good.
Thank you. Yeah, that whole sequence was a lot of fun to shoot. We had a lot of access to the city, and they were awesome. They shut down that whole downtown area for us, and it was a trip.
Did you have a shot in the film that maybe I don't know, like didn't necessarily stand out when you were shooting it, or maybe it did, I don't know, but maybe a shot that someone else would look at and just think it's kind of it's just a shot. But to you, like it stands out to you, or it's one of your favorites.
Oh my God. I love that question. Love that question. The shot every time I see it, I'm just obsessed with is this moment it's in the diner. It's that really wide shot in the diner where they're eating together. It's brief, but I'm obsessed with that shot. It's not the most, I guess, grand shot, but it's a real wide shot where we just see them as two figures in the diner eating.
Yeah.
And to me, that shot is so touching just because it's in that moment. I think also I just love where we ended up having it in the scene. It felt like, and I had this, and again, like I might be projecting sort of what I was hoping to get across. Maybe I see it this way, but I think emotionally, at least to me, it feels like at that moment, we're just seeing two strangers together. Like we could be in the back just watching them, have a bite together at 10 p.m. or so, whatever time it is. So that to me is like, it's a shot that always affects me when I see it, especially with an audience, but it might not be the shot where people go, yeah, that's the most complicated or, crazy shot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And, there's definitely a couple others like that, but maybe they'll come to mind.
Space is another constant in your film. It's through shots, dialogue, mise-en-scene, and even the film's title kind of is reference to space. You've spoken about how you see Binghamton as a character, but in comparison, I'd say that space is as well. I was wondering if you can talk a bit about what space means to you or the film.
Yeah, so I had this idea too. When Jackson and I were planning the shots and everything, we wanted to, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, maybe it's so subtle, but still works. But basically, we wanted the camera to often be at a lower angle so that we could see a lot of the sky. Mm-hmm. We really wanted the sky to feel like, the city is sort of like just like on Earth, basically, with the sky always there. I mean, again, it's about this cab driver waiting to see the first pass of the International Space Station. So we wanted there to always be some sort of feeling of space present. We wanted the cosmos, so to speak, to be kind of with these characters, even if it's subtle or just kind of a touch. But I wanted the audience to feel this, at least as much as possible, this connection to the sky, essentially, and the night sky. Yeah. So I'd say
I think it even functions as kind of like a unifying blanket to those alone characters that I was kind of mentioning earlier.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think space is definitely I like how it's used.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Yeah, definitely a blanket for sure. Yeah, I was happy you used that word.
In shooting it, like, because I doubt it's not just in camera. Is it the sky? Like, did you use any tricks to kind of capture it, or is it all just?
Yeah. Well, like the stars you're talking about.
Yeah, the stars.
Yeah. So I have to say too, Jackson, our cinematographer, did many of the visual effects, including the stars. So the stars, those are not. At least most
poking holes in blankets, or how was?
What'd you say?
Were you like poking holes in paper and shining a light through, or how did?
That'd be an interesting idea. No, he. I think he created them, but digitally.
Right. Yeah.
So, but even like the smoke, I don't know if you remember the smoke coming from the vent when the guys are outside.
Yes. Yep.
Most of those wide shots are created in post-production, but what we did was Jackson actually shot with a fog machine, I believe, and then just composited the fog into the shot. So
Right.
we didn't use like particle generation or anything like that in post, because that often it just doesn't look real. It just looks, I don't know if you've seen, like there are a lot of films that will simulate breath in the winter, and it looks so thick, and so we didn't do any of that. In fact, all the breath that you see as far as that goes was real because it was freezing. So yeah.
Yeah, just a general question. Like, what was your favorite part of making the film? You mentioned the editing process, how it kind of came together there, and if you want to touch on any future projects you have as well, any ideas you might have.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's so hard to know what the favorite. I mean, editing, yes, it's. I think what I love about the editing process is it's the quietest part of the process, because you I mean, obviously you want to get it done, but there's, if you feel done for the day, you can sort of say you're done for the day and sleep and then work on it the next day. Whereas, when you're shooting, you have to get everything. So it's a lot less chill, of course. Yeah, so I'd say, post-production is just such a joy because you have everything in hand. But again, it's like, then I think and I go, well, I love directing the actors. I love working with Jackson on set. I love, working with Molly, our production designer. So it's really tough to say what my favorite is, because, we also love being social around people and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and as far as future projects go, I could tell you maybe off camera. It's kind of
okay.
early stages. It's just a little. It's a vulnerable baby.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think you guys would dig it.
What something else I saw mentioned, I can't recall whether it was in one of the emails, but it was that you got listed on Variety's like 100 students to watch or something like that.
Yeah, when I was a student, yeah, I was in that.
Yeah, how does that come about? Is it just you kind of submit a portfolio, or?
I didn't even submit to that. I'm not even. I was excited when I got in, but I think it had to do with some work I did as a student, some editorial work and a short film that I made at the time. So I think that has to do with it. But yeah, that was a while ago.
Did that open up doors for you at all, or is it kind of just something that? Is it nice to?
I mean, my friend bought me a drink, I think. I think. No, I think. I mean, for me, it was pretty cool because it's like, even as a student, you want to take advantage of as many opportunities as you can. And it was kind of cool because I worked really hard in school, I think at the time it was a cool sort of like. I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but it was cool to be on that for sure. Yeah, and our film actually is kind of a crazy full circle moment because, again, our film is literally came out of nowhere. Like, we have no big names in the film. It was just absolute from the ground up collaboration, and to be, our distribution deal to be covered in Variety was an absolute dream, because we're just, we came out of left field this film. So it was crazy to do Glasgow, do Brooklyn, some other festivals as well. And, like I said, Buffalo recently. So yeah, no, it's been a
festival circuit long for you? Is it?
Well, we're in, right now playing on this hybrid one in Girona in Spain right now. So that's playing streaming right now, actually. And then in Yellowknife, Canada, it's playing tomorrow at their Capitol Theater in the Arctic. So I unfortunately won't be able to make that, but it's pretty cool though that our film's playing out there right now. And then it'll come out all across North America on on Tuesday of next week. So on November 11th, it'll be available, cable, digital, and satellite all across North America, November 11th. So
Awesome.
Absolutely. If you got a couple more minutes, Daniel, I think there was just one more main thing I was curious about.
I got 6 hours, guys. I got.
I was wondering about. Obviously, you've had experience making short films, and it's what that transition has been like to this being your first feature, and if there was any particular lessons that you learned or things that you weren't expecting, just making that transition for the first time that maybe that surprised you.
Yeah, I think stamina is a big part of it, where you really have to take care of yourself when you're shooting, because especially with this film, just all at night in the cold, and we shot from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day. And you really have to just make sure you sleep. You can sprint for 3 days on a short film, but you can't sprint for, a few weeks on a feature. You have to really pace yourself. So that's a big part of it. And then I think for me, luckily I love the cold. So I think my sort of jovial spirit while shooting, I think that was helpful for people. So they knew that, I was at the very least, putting good vibes out there, given how cold it was. But yeah, no, it's really, I think that's a big part of it, just from a production standpoint, and from a script writing standpoint. I think the key is just anytime you start, I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but it's normal to, if you've read the script a million times, for it to slow down when you're reading it, because what's going to happen. You're like, okay, I've read this before, etc. But when you're translating the script and you're like, 3 weeks from shooting, everything goes up in terms of intensity. So when you're reading through that script, it becomes so obvious what you don't need or what you do need. Like, it's like, oh wait, we need to make sure we get this, or I'm bored here, like lose that. So I think that sort of, you have to be a bit more, and again, it obviously comes down to how much of a budget you have, but at least for me, as long as I'm excited to see what's going to happen next in the script, I think you're good to go. And knowing, if you're going off a bit and it's not right, you sort of have to have like a BS detector basically on a higher level, because you're sustaining a longer period of time. So, so I think that's sort of the key. I think on a short, you still have to have that on a short. Shorts are also challenging, but I think it's sort of just, you're basically shooting, 6 short films, when you're doing a feature,
sure,
depending on how the metrics you want to use. So,
I saw that you did release a short film while Stationed at Home was being produced, like during its production phase. Is that how do you go about juggling kind of that balance of working on kind of one project that you need to push out and then having this other kind of overarching one?
Well, that one, the end of a thing you're talking about?
Yes, yeah.
So that one I made during COVID. So that was, there was nothing that we could do on Station at Home at the time. So it was this, whereas like that film I made with like 4 people, basically. But essentially, yeah, it was like this weird time where we couldn't do anything on Station at Home, because it was just too much of a film to do not in kind of like hidden with your 4 friends. So, so yeah, that's basically why I was able to, because there was just this like pocket of, I guess you could call it time, so to speak.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I'll get you out of here on this one. I had to ask, as a cat lover, I had to ask about Ralph's cat, and I must say, played beautifully by Lyle Schneider.
Yeah.
I saw it in the credit. Is Lyle a trained actor cat? You know, or how could I go about casting him if I ever needed the perfect project for him?
Well, I'm not just saying this because he was Molly Schneider, our art director's cat, but he was super easy to direct. That cat, he was incredibly, responsive to directions. A bit of a diva sometimes, but generally, he took direction really well. And I will say, to Eric Bjarnar's credit, Eric is kind of a cat whisperer, so he would. Actually, when we were in that tight trailer space, oh my God, there's a whole story behind that trailer. But basically, he befriended this cat for like an hour or two before we started rolling. So that made it a lot easier as well. So he trusted him, to go near him and pet him and stuff like that without running off. But yeah, Lyle actually, unfortunately, passed away after the shoot. So did Cassie, our pug. Who
oh
is
no!
The guy who played George, one of my really good friends, Peter Foster Morris, who played George. It was his pug, and
oh man.
So so you can imagine, we made sure to put in the thing. No animals were harmed on this set, but after, unfortunately,
Man,
it was.
I guess
sad for sure.
The caravan story probably has to do with the fact that you can't cut away walls on your budget to get kind of angles to shoot. I guess you're kind of cramped in there, is it? Or
wait, sorry. Can you say that again?
Sorry. You said there was like a story going on in the caravan. Is it just to do with like how cramped trailer? Yeah. Is it just cramped and you can't take away walls? Or
well, it was more about when we found the location.
Right.
So again, keep in mind that there are like 14 locations in the film, which is like a lot of moving. But a few weeks before we were shooting, we're like, we need a trailer, and so we would just go knock on people's doors in like the winter to see if we could make a movie in their trailer, and one of the people we knocked on, it was this old woman who had like 80 cats, and the place smelled horrible. It was absolutely nauseating. If you could imagine what it smelled like. And that's basically the story.
And that's the one they ended up with? Or?
No, we didn't use that. But yeah, no, the story is that there was a trailer that we looked at that we didn't use. That's the story. Yeah, it was pretty foul.
Man, that's great. Daniel, thanks so much for your time and hopping on with us today. It's been awesome getting to talk to you directly. It's been awesome and exciting for us. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.